I'm Sherrit Stanley, Assistant Professor, PG Department of English, Don Bosco College, Kottayam. In this lecture, I discuss the poem I Heard a Flybus When I Died by Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson, an American poet. During her early years, she was lively, witty, and sociable. But from her mid 20s, she gradually withdrew into an inner world, eventually refusing to leave her home. Although she maintained intimate correspondences with people she never saw face to face. Features of Emily Dickinson's poetry. Her work presents recurrent themes such as a mystic apprehension of the natural world, a preoccupation with poetic vocation, fame, death, and immortality, and it is expressed in a rhetoric and language of her own, cryptic, elliptical, and at times self dramatizing and hyperbolic. Her imagery reflects an intense and painful inner struggle over many years. She refers to herself as the Queen of Calvary, and her verse is full of allusions to volcanoes, shipwrecks, funerals, storms, imprisonments, and other manifestations of natural and human violence. I Heard a Flybus When I Died, one of her best poems on death, contained the sensations of the dying person or the physical experiences as the soul leaves the body. Here, the traditional Christian belief that death leads to eternal happiness suffers by an appearance of an insignificant, distracting fly. The opening lines of the poem, I heard a flybus when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The ice around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering foam for that last onset when the king be witnessed in the room. Here we see the buzz of a fly ludicrously interrupts the aw's approach of the death. After this initial shock, the poet describes the atmosphere of the sick room. The moment is tense, the soul is ready to depart, and the stillness in the room is like the deceptively calm center of a storm. The second stanza considers the dry-eyed and expectant onlookers as they crowd closer in order to witness the last dying moments. The scene appears morbid to modern readers, but it was a common practice in Dickinson's time to observe the dying. For those with a religious bent of mind, the dying moment meant the departure of a soul to enter paradise. The final death struggle of soul and body is described as an onset, as the king sweeps majestically in with the treasures of paradise. Let's move on to the last two stanzas. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portion of me be assignable, and then it was there interposed a fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see. Here, the last two stanzas contain the climax. The final acts of the dying person are presented with a crisp detachment. In its careful preparation for death's entrance, the soul rigidly controls the final moments. The pun in the word signed and assignable ironically illustrates death's supreme power. For only worthless documents, empty phrases, curious mementos, and a corrupting body can be left behind. The irony increases as the soul precisely arranges everything and waits confidently for death. The grand moment is at hand, but unfortunately, a fly interrupts the ceremony. Here the fly comes at the wrong time as a petty irritant which distracts from the magnificent approach of death. The fly comes between the light and the dying person, not just blocking physical sight but obscuring the radiance of immortality as well. The final line captures the desperate intensity of the person's struggle for life. Instead of the calm assurance of the earlier stanzas, the person now fails to recognize death's arrival and fights to prevent subjection pathetically. The person claims that the windows fail, not his eyesight. I could not see to see is the last effort at self-control. In these few seconds, the soul says that it could not open its eyes for a final view. Here, one of the deepest ironies is the soul's confidence that it still controls the body. Only the reader knows the hopelessness of these attempts and how aptly the fly symbolizes life and death, since its buzz sound an atmosphere of excitement and activity. It is also associated with daily household activities, while its food often consists of carrion. Carrion means the decaying flesh of dead animals. Let's move on to the next section, analysis. This poem relies upon the poetic devices such as synesthesia. Synesthesia means use of one sense to describe the workings of another, and paranomasia. It means wordplay. Here, the predator fly waits to claim a corpse. The room is still, but this stillness resembles the interval between the heavings of a storm. Then eyes had cried all they could, and the patient who is speaking is beyond willing life, though she had willed her keepsakes. Here the language is both theological and legal. The whole poem satirizes the traditional view of death as a peaceful release from life's pressures and a glorious entrance into immortality. The poet sees only disappointment at the sight of a buzzing fly. She describes the terrible attempts of a soul to prolong life. I hope you understand this lecture. Please write the critical appreciation of the poem I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died by Emily Dickinson as your assignment. Thank you.